And now on to the most important news. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office are conducting a large-scale operation to expose corruption in the energy sector. Dozens of searches are currently underway. The NABU press service has released photos showing bags of dollars and euros, as well as audio recordings of conversations between the individuals involved in the case. No names have been officially released yet, but it is noted that the case concerns high-ranking officials. They allegedly set up a large-scale corruption scheme to influence strategic enterprises, including Energoatom. It is known that those involved in the scheme include, in particular, an advisor to the former Minister of Energy and a former Energoatom official. According to the investigation, they controlled the procurement processes and blackmailed companies that were contractors of Energoatom, forcing them to pay kickbacks of 10 to 15%. The investigation lasted 15 months. More than 70 searches were conducted involving all the Bureau's detectives.
Thousands of hours of audio recordings have been obtained, which serve as evidence of the activities of a high-level criminal organization. In fact, a system was created in which a strategic enterprise with revenues of over 200 billion hryvnias was managed not by the top managers of the supervisory board or the state, as it should be, but by an outsider who, having no formal authority, assumed the role of a shadow manager, the so-called overseer.
The briefing by Minister of Energy Svetlana Hrinchak has begun. Please pay attention.
The Bureau, together with the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. As far as you know, and as far as I know, just like you from Energoatom's statements, the company is providing full cooperation with all investigative actions, and all the necessary requested documents are being provided. There is no resistance, no concealment whatsoever. The company is completely open to working with law enforcement agencies. At the same time, I want to remind you that our energy system is under severe, massive attacks. And of course, any events that occur within Energoatom. As the key company that provides more than 50% of the necessary generation for the energy system, they are under everyone's scrutiny. And of course, for me, as the Minister of Energy, it is very important that investigative actions are conducted transparently and openly, and all individuals, if any, are identified, and if their guilt is proven, of course, there will be zero tolerance for corruption. Everyone must be held accountable according to the results shown by the investigative actions, the investigation, and the judicial system. Therefore, in this regard, it is very important that the process takes place exactly in this way. Thank you. Perhaps we can move on to questions now?
Yes, a question. Andriy Stisov, Suspilne. There will be 2 questions.
Thank you.
As far as I understand, you worked together with former advisor Mr. Ihor Roman.
Details in the next editions, but now we continue with our news broadcast. The situation in the energy system remains very difficult. 2 nuclear power plants, Rivne and Khmelnytskyi, have reduced electricity generation after another Russian strike on the substations that supply the NPPs. In 11 regions and Kyiv, scheduled power outages are in effect, with up to 4 groups disconnected at the same time. The situation is most difficult in Poltava and Kharkiv regions. There is a shortage of electricity transmission there after high-voltage lines were damaged. In Kharkiv, about 100,000 customers are without heating. They managed to restore water supply, resume electricity, and restart the metro. Over the weekend, the subway served as a shelter because there wasn't enough voltage to run the trains. Electricity supply has also been restored in the region, but with scheduled outages, and several settlements are still without heating. In Poltava region, the situation has also been stabilized. Boiler houses have been started up, water intakes and treatment facilities are operating. In some places, there is no water due to accidents, but these are not widespread according to Poltava Vodokanal. Schools, kindergartens and hospitals are operating. The Ministry of Energy says that the latest Russian attack was technologically one of the most complex. Last night, the enemy used 45 missiles of various types, more than 30 of which were ballistic and cluster missiles. Also, after another round of strikes on nuclear power plant substations, Ukraine is initiating a meeting of the IAEA Board of Governors. At night, the Russians attacked Ukraine with 67 strike drones, 2 Kinzhal missiles, and 5 S-300 and S-400 surface-to-air guided missiles. Air defense shot down 52 enemy UAVs, but 15 drones hit targets at 9 locations. For the second day in a row, the Russians have been attacking Odessa region with strike drones. Fortunately, no people were injured, but a civilian building was damaged. A fire broke out at the site, which rescuers managed to extinguish fairly quickly. Overall, as a result of the enemy attacks, residential buildings and garage cooperatives were damaged. Fragments of a Shahed drone also fell in the historic city center on Primorsky Boulevard. Odessa regional authorities are warning local residents. Do not approach the sites where munitions have fallen and do not touch the debris. The enemy is increasing the number of assaults near the Pokrovsk agglomeration and is trying to occupy positions in high-rise buildings in order to gain commanding heights. In the 7th Air Assault Brigade, whose units, among others, are holding the defense in the Pokrovsk direction, they spoke about defending their sector. The paratroopers report that over the past week, their units alone have eliminated nearly 250,000 Russians. They managed to destroy a tank, 3 armored vehicles, and more than 24 cars and motorcycles. The elimination of the invaders in the northern part of Pokrovsk continues. The most intense fighting is currently taking place in the industrial zone. At the same time, the Russians are trying to concentrate their forces in other parts of the city, such as the western outskirts. The operation to defend Mirnorat is ongoing. The occupiers are trying to attack from the southeast, but our soldiers are destroying assault troops on the approaches to the city. They also assured in this corps that although logistics in this area are complicated, they are still functioning. It is possible to deliver food and ammunition. Meanwhile, according to official information from the military administration, up to 1,500 civilians still remain in the community. Their evacuation is currently impossible. The situation on this section of the front was commented on by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
The defense of the Pokrovsk-Mirnorat agglomeration continues. The situation remains difficult and dynamic. Here the enemy is deploying all available reserves, but as a result is only suffering enormous losses. In Mirnorat, Ukrainian units are confidently holding their positions and destroying Russian occupiers on the approaches to the city. Active resistance to enemy infantry groups attempting to gain a foothold in Pokrovsk continues. Search and strike operations are ongoing in the city. Enemy positions within the urban area are being destroyed.
Fierce fighting continues in the Sloviansk direction. The Russians are attacking our positions with overwhelming numbers of manpower, striking with drones and controlling all supply routes from the air. That's why our scouts have plenty of targets, and every day they eliminate dozens of Russians who move in small groups and infiltrate our rear. How do those who direct our artillery and FPV drones at the Russians train? More on this in the report by Vladislav Krulov. Also, as is now tradition, the report will include a fundraiser because the scouts of the 30th Brigade are in dire need of both new drones and spare parts for them. Join in.
In one of the fields of Donetsk region, a soldier from the 30th Brigade with the call sign Kardan is passing on his experience to a newly arrived fighter. The drones take off and land dozens of times, carrying out various missions.
Fly steadily towards those tall towers over there. Get your bearings, make sure you have a clear spot, and take off.
Kardan himself has been at war for 9 years already. He was a driver the whole time, but this summer he transferred to reconnaissance and within a few months became one of the best pilots. That's why he's now training his comrades.
The training for reconnaissance is specifically structured so that when he takes off, as soon as the drone is airborne, he carefully orients himself on the terrain, marks his exact takeoff point, then flies out, thoroughly completes his reconnaissance, and finally returns to his starting location. Using landmarks, he finds his position and lands.
Visual contact is the most important thing in the work of reconnaissance teams because drones fly both day and night, relying solely on terrain orientation and landmarks without using GPS.
Visually, yes. We train so that there are references to the terrain and a plan of landmarks. We take a landmark so that, especially at night, it's the one we use. We record its position either during flight or in the daytime when we can see it, so we can bring the drone back safely during our work.
The pilots practice different maneuvers, taking off into the sky in all kinds of weather. All of this is so that in combat positions they can successfully guide their comrades without losing the drone.
Yes, we handle all the targeting ourselves. Roughly speaking, we are the eyes of the infantry and the artillery. If the battery is running low, we transmit the video feed so that another drone, another team can take over right away. We show them, here it is. And as they fly in and find everything, we fly out to change batteries. They take over and keep working, so the video feed is continuous.
After one soldier finishes practicing the maneuvers, another begins his training.
He used to fly with me before. But he forgot a bit because he was in rehabilitation. Now I'm repeating all these movements to refresh my motor skills.
The soldier with the call sign Groom, while serving in the infantry, sustained shrapnel wounds to his leg and neck. Now he dreams of returning to the front line as soon as possible to take revenge on the Russians.
So that they can truly feel what we felt as we sat there in those holes. I have a really huge desire, and I sincerely hope that everything will work out for the best in the end.
So, on the contrary, this gave you even more drive?
It motivated me even more, of course, because there are, it seems to me, endless numbers of them. They keep coming and coming like garbage.
But working in the fields or at training grounds is fundamentally different from combat. The fighters say that the psychological state at the front line is different because you never know when the enemy will spot you and strike. Moreover, during real flights, drones are often lost. And leaving the sky without eyes in the reality of this war is like being blind.
The rep works like this. They carefully attach a net to the drone and then add a counterweight so it hangs directly below. Next, they fly up to the enemy drone and, at the right moment, drop down so the net gets tangled in the propellers, causing the enemy drone to fall.
So the scouts of the 30th Brigade are in urgent need of your help to purchase both drones and consumables for them, such as batteries and propellers. QR code for donations. On your
Screens are devices that display images, videos, or information. They are commonly used in televisions, computer monitors, smartphones, and tablets, allowing people to view content and interact with technology.
The fighters fly for several hours, draining more than one battery, and all this is to make their hand movements automatic.
Move just a little bit forward, please. To beg, that's it. All, here you sit.
Carden says that flight experience plays an important role here. The larger it is, the better and more accurate targeting of the enemy.
My brothers were filming, and while they were out, they came across and discovered 2 pits. They were carefully escorted to the shelter, the same place where they had previously hidden.
Was it FPV?
It's FPV.